What's up everybody, Average Joe here and welcome to another Average video. Alright, today's video has to do with natural disasters and how you're going to be powering your house or critical loads during those times. Obviously, a natural disaster can be anything from a quick thunderstorm just rolls through, knocks out the power for a couple hours. It could be a hurricane, a tornado, or just a random person runs into the utility pole down the street, obviously knocks out the power. All right, and then it kind of leads into what if the power goes out in the middle of wintertime? How are you gonna keep warm if you don't have, a fireplace or anything like that? Let's say you just went to the store, spent a ton of money, brought all the groceries back, boom, power goes out. How are you gonna save all of that food? All right, let's say one of those scenarios happens and you do have a portable power station or a generator. Are you gonna be running extension cords all over your house just to power certain loads? Are you going to be able to run an extension cord to your furnace? For the most part, some of those things you could do that, but for your furnace, you can't do that. You would physically have to wire into it. Alrighty, well today we're going to fix that and you're not going to have to run any more extension cords all over your house to power your device, alright? Today's video, we're going to be doing a step-by-step guide on how to install a 10-circuit Reliance ProTrans 2 generator transfer switch. All right, and we're going to be powering it up with an Anker SOLIX F3800. All right, now I want to give Anker a big shout out for sponsoring this video. They sent out the ProTrans 2 generator transfer switch so we can make this step-by-step guide. All right, so before we start, I was just going to show you the generator transfer switch real quick, everything that it comes with, just to familiarize yourself with it, and then we'll get right to the step-by-step guide. All right, let's get to it. All right, so in this kit we have two boxes, okay? We get the generator transfer switch or critical loads panel in this box right here, and then we get the Reliance generator cord. All right, so starting down here, the model number for the transfer switch is A510A. Maximum watts is 12,500. Like I said, it is 10 circuits, and this is a 50 amp panel, okay? So up here on the top box, this is gonna be your cable. All right, model number for this is PC5010. 14M. Type is 6'4", cable length is 10 foot, and again, this is a 50 amp cable. All right, plug connectors on the end are 14-50 and a CS6364. Alrighty, and like I said, we're going to be connecting it up to an Anker SOLIX F3800. If you're not familiar with these are portable power stations that you can use as a backup instead of a generator, pretty much. Okay, so this particular one, we'll just go over the specs real quick if you're not familiar with these. Okay, so like I said, this is the Anker SOLIX F3800. All right, it has 3,840 watt hours worth of battery storage inside. All right, so it has a 6,000 watt split phase inverter. All right, so that's great for backing up your house, or it's real easy to back up your house indoors because your house runs on 240 volt split phase, or at least here in the United States it does. If we zoom into the screen here, we have a battery state of charge. We're at 77% state of charge. Right over here we have a 12 volt accessory port. If you needed to use that, you could. We have 3 USB-C ports, 2 USB-A ports, display button, turn that on and off, and then of course your power button right over there. All right, on the left side we have all your charge and expansion ports. All right, so we have your standard 120 volt AC charging port, and you can charge up to 1800 watts, which is also adjustable through the app. Okay, all right, right here we have 2 XT60 solar inputs, and those are 1200 watts each or 2400 watts combined. All right, right down here is a port to add your expansion batteries. Obviously I have one, and that's a total of 7.68 kilowatt hours worth of storage. However, you can add up to 6 more batteries for 26.9 kilowatt hours worth of battery storage. Right up here is another expansion port where you could parallel in a whole nother Anker SOLIX F3800 for 12,000 watts worth of inverter output. All right, and then keep in mind you can also add 6 more batteries to that. Okay, so you'll have 12,000 watts worth of inverter and 53.8 kilowatt hours worth of battery storage. All right, and then finally on the right side, this is going to be all of your AC output. All right, so these two ports right up here, you can get 240 volts out of. It's an L1450 and an L1430. All right, you can get your 6,000 watts out of these two ports right here. We're actually going to be plugging into this port later on. All right, and then you also get 6 120 volt 20 amp outlets right here. Okay, so I just took everything out of the box. So right over here on the left, we have the Reliance Protran 2 generator transfer switch or critical loads panel, and obviously everything else that came inside the box. So we have a installation manual. We have 16 inches of flexible conduit. This is 1 inch, and then we have your conduit fittings right over here. Right up here, we have our generator plug or outlet, okay? That also came with some wiring instructions. We have 2 stickers, the mounting screws, which this is going to get mounted right over here in a little bit, and then we have a ground wire right here. All right, if we take a closer look at this just to familiarize ourselves with it. All right, if we open up the lid and take a look inside, we'll just start up here at the top. So we have meter 1 and meter 2. This is basically L1 and L2 from battery backup. Since this is a 240 volt panel, if you're not aware, there are 2 120 volt lines. That's how you get 240 volts. So this is one 120 volt, and this is the other 120 volt. Whenever we're in backup mode, this is going to show you how many watts are running on each leg, okay? And then right below that, we have a whole bunch of these 3 position switches, okay? One for each circuit that you're going to install. So we have 6 single 120 volt circuits, and then we have 2 double pole 240 volt circuits. All right, and how these work, if you look off to either one of the sides, you can see line, off, or generator. Line is grid, off obviously is off, and generator is the backup that you have connected to the panel, okay? So how this works in normal operating mode, whenever you're running on grid power, you're gonna flip all of these switches in the down position, okay? And that means you're powering everything from the grid just as you normally would, okay? If a storm rolls through or whatever and knocks out your power, all you have to do is come down here and flip these up to generator, and then you'll be in battery backup or generator mode. All right, and let's say the power comes back on. All you have to do is come back down here to the panel and flip these back down to line mode, and you'll be back on grid. All right, and there is one other thing that you can do with these. Let's say you don't have 240 volt items that you need to power. You can actually turn these into single 120 volt circuits. So you can back out the little rod that's connecting these, and then you can make 2 more 120 volt circuits. All right, and just keep in mind that these 2 right now already have 20 amp circuit breakers in here, and this one over here has a 30 amp in there, okay? So if you need 15 amp circuit breakers, you would have to remove these and then put in your own circuit breakers. And then obviously down here we have all of your circuit breakers, okay? We have 6 15 amp breakers, and then we have 1 double pole 20 amp circuit breaker right here, and then 1 30 amp circuit breaker right here, okay? This is going to be for, you know, your bigger items, your well pump, etc., okay? If you look down here, you can see all the numbers, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. That's basically L1 and L2 up here. So since we have a 240 volt circuit, we're using both sides, all right? So that's how we get 240 volts. For location, we got A, B, C, D, E, F, which will come into play here in just a little bit whenever we wire this all up. Back out just a little bit. This is going to be a cover plate. We're actually going to remove this and install the generator inlet port right here. We'll do that just a little bit later. And then a little bit further, we have all the wiring coming right out the bottom. And don't get intimidated by this big mess of wires. It's going to be super easy, because one thing that they do to make it so easy is each one of these wires have a letter on it which correspond with the circuit breaker right up here, right? Each one is labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J, all right? All of these wires are also labeled the exact same, so it's going to be super easy to install, all right? And we also have a little note right here. It says, important, connect red wire leads to branch circuit breakers, okay? So each one of these red wires are going to be mounted to the circuit breaker in your main panel, okay? And then the black wire is going to be attached to the wire that we removed from that circuit breaker. One last thing, we do have a space right up here so we can label all of our new circuits, okay? So let me move this out of the way, and let me grab the generator cord, which it also came with. This also is a 50 amp amp generator cord. This cable is 10 feet long, okay? This side's gonna plug into the Anker SOLIX F3800, and this side is gonna plug right into the generator transfer switch right up there. And one other thing I got to mention here real quick is it did not come with any mounting hardware to mount the panel to the wall. So if you're going into concrete, you're going to have to get something like this, which is a Tapcon. This also comes with the masonry drill bit if you wanted to go that route. And it also did not come with the wire nuts so we can connect all of our wiring. So you're going to need enough wire nuts for the 120 volt circuits and enough for the 240 volt circuits. All right, so for this part of the video, what you want to do is go back to your main panel and figure out exactly what you want to power off the critical loads panel, okay? So you don't have to run extension cords all over your house, okay? So for me, the number one thing is my furnace. I just never want to lose power in the winter, well, because I don't want to freeze, okay? The second one on my list is going to be my refrigerator, okay? Just like I said before, I don't want to lose power, you know, if we just bought a whole bunch of groceries, okay? I want to keep the refrigerator running as long as I can. Third one for me is going to be my TV room because it has all the entertainment, okay? So it has TV, Wi-Fi, you know, router, all that kind of stuff, just in case we want to watch a movie when the power is out. Okay. Fourth one for me is going to be this whole downstairs area because it has 2 more refrigerators on it, and then it has my computer and stuff down here that I do all my video stuff on. Okay. Anything after that for me is a bonus. However, your story might be a little bit different. Maybe you need to run a well pump, or maybe you want to run your air conditioning. All right. That's going to be up to you to decide, okay? Basically, we're just trying to get you away from all those extension cords. All right, so once you have all of your items figured out that you want to run, write them down on a little piece of paper because we're going to need that info later on. One last thing, obviously, if you don't feel comfortable installing this or getting into your main electrical panel, you know, around live wires, etc., definitely get in touch with a local electrician and they would be more than happy to help you out, of course, if you pay them. All right? Don't do it yourself if you're not comfortable. And if you do install it and you mess something up, you can't blame me, okay? Take responsibility for your own actions. All right, let's get to it. All right, I have my makeshift wall right here. First step always is to open up your main circuit breaker panel, and we're going to turn off the main circuit breaker, all right? That's going to de-energize all the circuits below. We're also going to turn off all of these circuit breakers as well, all right? So we'll do that. This will be step 1. All right, we can close that back up. Next thing we're going to do is take out the 4 corner screws so we can remove this cover. That's either a flathead screwdriver or a square bit. All right, just a quick note here before we go any further is if you have an older panel, which many people might, your main wires that come in from the grid, these black and red wires, they connect to the main lugs right here. You might not have these covers. So if you don't have the covers, just remember that those lugs are live, so don't touch them, okay? All right, next thing that we need to do is bring over the generator transfer switch, open up the lid, and we're gonna take off this cover right here because we need access to the mounting points, all right? So these are just 2 Phillips head screws. Next thing we need to do is figure out where you wanna put this on your wall, all right? So for us to do that, what you wanna do is grab your flexible conduit and just kinda put it in place down here on the bottom of the transfer switch, and then line it up with one of the knockouts on the side of your main panel. All right, I figured out where I want mine. I'm just gonna mark my holes right now. That's it. All right, now that that is marked, the next thing we're gonna do is punch out the knockouts on the side of the panel. All right, so for my installation and possibly yours, we're gonna be going through the multi-sized knockout holes right here, okay? We're gonna be knocking out 3 pieces, all right? The center one, which is a 1/2 inch, the next ring out is 3/4, and then the next kind of 3/4 ring is 1 inch, okay? We're gonna knock all 3 of those out. I'm just gonna take a flathead screwdriver here towards the bottom side. I'm gonna tap it with a screwdriver. All right, on the inside, you're gonna grab that little disc and work it back and forth until it's removed. For the next ring, you're gonna take your screwdriver and pop it outwards. All right, so from this side, grab some needle nose pliers or some channel locks. All right, and then the same thing for this. We're gonna knock out that next ring, which will be a 1 inch hole. Same thing, I'm gonna use a screwdriver and a hammer just to get it started. All right, next step before we mount the transfer switch, we need to install all of our wires through our flexible conduit. And this might be a little tricky just because there's so many wires. All right, since my plastic insert came off, I'm gonna go ahead and put that back in. There we go. Alrighty, next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the cover to the conduit and the fitting right here so we can cover up all these wires with the 2 supplied screws. Alright, so grab those and we're going to put this little tab in the back right here and then just put it right over the flexible conduit. Boom, done. Alrighty, next step before we mount the transfer switch to the wall is we need to insert all the wires into the hole that we knocked out earlier in the main panel, alright? And we also need to use the squeeze connector that was supplied, so make sure you remove the jam nut or lock ring, alright? So what I'm going to actually do, since it's easy right here, is I'm just going to put all of my wires through the squeeze connector first, and then we're going to put it into the main panel. All right, and then once you get down to this point right here, you're going to twist this into position. All right, once you get that all the way on, you can tighten down the screw right here. The reason they want you to do it in this order is because if you already have this mounted to the wall, you might not be able to flex the flexible conduit and wires enough to get it into the main panel. And what I always do here is just use a flathead screwdriver. And another thing that you can install to help protect your wires is a plastic bushing, which I don't have at this current time. All right, next step is to finally mount the transfer switch to the wall. And of course, since I'm on drywall, it's going to be super easy. If you're using tap cons, you should have drilled those holes earlier. All right, the next thing we're going to need is that little tiny ground wire, and we're going to install it underneath this ground screw right here. Okay, so we're just going to back that out just a little bit. We're going to install that underneath the tab, and we're going to tighten it back down. All right, once that is installed, we're going to bend it over to this side, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on the cover, and then we're going to install the generator output port. All right, next thing we'll do is pull off this cover, but don't lose that screw because we're going to need it for the generator outlet plug. All right, so now we need to grab our white, our red, our black, and that green wire that we just installed. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach these wires right here to the back side of the generator outlet port, okay? Green is going to go to G, white is going to go to W, red is going to go to Y, and black is going to go to X. All right, and all you're going to do is insert the wire into the hole and then tighten down the screw. Next thing we can do is install the plug. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ground right over here on my lower left. Boom, done. All right, now on to the fun part, which is all the wiring. And I already went through and found all the matched pairs and taped them together. That was just easier for me to do for this video. You don't have to do that, but you can if you want to. All right, so first thing we're going to do is actually shove all the red and black wires aside, and we're only going to concentrate on the green wire first. All right, this is your ground wire. You always want to install that first. All right, since this is set up in a main panel configuration, that just means that my ground and my neutral are bonded together. There's a green bond screw right up here, which combines the ground and the neutral together. And if you're going to be powering stuff off of a sub panel, you are going to have a separate ground bar installed off to the side. Your green ground wire is going to be installed to the bus bar. Same for all of your bare wires down here. All of those are going to be connected to the bus bar off to the side. And also, that green bond screw right up here will be removed. The only thing that's going to matter is where you install this green wire, okay? Since mine is set up for a main panel configuration, I can install the green ground wire on this bar over here or on this bar over here. It doesn't really matter. It's just going to be whatever is convenient for you. All right, so normally if I was going to be installing this in my own home, what I would do is I would just figure out a good routing, and then I would snip the wire wherever I need, just so I don't have a bunch of excess wire cluttering up everything. Since this is just a demonstration, I'm not going to be cutting the wire because honestly I'll probably be installing this transfer switch later on down the road. So all I'm going to do here is cut off about 1/2 inch of the insulation, okay? All right, so I think I am going to try to fish this around the back side here. All right, and I'm just going to go up to the next screw that is open, install that, and again, these are flathead or the square bit style apex. The very next wire we're going to worry about is the white neutral. This is a shared neutral. It can be installed on anywhere on the neutral bar. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to follow my ground wire around and install it right over here. All right, there we go. We have 2 wires installed. Alrighty, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to act like we have a 240 volt well pump. All right, we're going to be wiring up this double pole 30 amp circuit breaker right here. And then on the transfer box, we're going to be going off of spot A and B. All right, since that is a 30 amp double pole circuit breaker as well. So what we need to do is find A and B in the red and black wires. And those are going to be the thickest wires available in here. All right, I found my red and black A and B wires. A is going to be phase 1 or L1. B is going to be phase 2 or L2, okay? Inside of your panel, the black right up here, that is L1, and then red is typically L2, okay? So A wires are going to go to this portion of the circuit breaker, and then B or L2 is going to go to the red wires, okay? So what we're going to do first, I guess we'll just start with the red wire since it's the lowest one there. So we're going to grab our B wires out of here, all right? We'll just set the A aside. I'm going to trim these back a little bit. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull off the red wire right here, okay? This red wire is going to attach to the circuit breaker, and this black wire is going to attach to the load wire. All right, we back out the screw, remove the red wire. All right, so all we need to do is put a wire nut on these 2 right here. Boom, there we go. Our black wire is connected to our load, which is going to be the 240 volt well pump. All right, we're going to push that out of the way. And then the red wire is going to go up to the circuit breaker. All right, next one is going to be L1. So again, we're going to take our A wires, we're going to strip back the insulation, back out the screw, pull out the wire. All right, so we have the black wire going to the black wire, which is the load, our 240 volt well pump. We'll twist these together. All right, those are together, and we'll push those out of the way. And now we're going to take the red wire and put it inside the circuit breaker. Boom, and done. All right, so quick recap. Our 2 black wires go to the load, and our 2 red wires go to the circuit breaker. The next thing that you would do, obviously, since you're going to have more circuits than I do in this panel, is you're going to find the circuits that you want to put on the critical loads panel. All right, so for this example, I'm only going to be doing these 2 circuits right here, and we're just going to say it's my refrigerator and my furnace. All right, so since this is spot 1 and 3, I'm going to put those on circuits E and F in the critical loads panel. All right, so I need to find wires E and F so I can wire them up to these 2 circuit breakers right here. All right, I found my red and black E and F wires. All right, so we're going to wire up E to spot 1 and F to spot 3. All right, first thing we're going to do is strip back the insulation just like before. All right, since these are wires F, I'm going to wire that to spot 3. All right, so we're going to back out the screw. We're going to remove the wire, okay? Now we're going to take the black wire and we're going to match it up to the black load wire. All right, and then we're going to wire nut those together, and we're going to just kind of drop that back down here. All right, last one is the red wire. All right, we just have one more left to do, which is going to be circuit breaker 1. I'm going to strip back the wires again. We're going to remove the wire, pull that out, all right, and then we're going to go black to black, move that wire out of the way, and then we're going to insert the red wire into the circuit breaker. Boom, and done. All right, so we have a 240 volt double pole circuit breaker wired up right here. That's going to be our simulated well pump. All right, so you can see we have 2 red wires going to the circuit breaker, and same thing over here. This is going to be my simulated furnace and refrigerator, okay? Right after here, all you would do is maybe do a little bit of wire maintenance to make it look nice and pretty. All right, I was just gonna give you a quick little explanation of how everything works, okay? So starting over here, these wires up here come in through the grid, go down the side bus bars, which come out through the circuit breaker, go out the red wire, which go over here, through the conduit, and since we are in the grid or line mode right up here, basically it just circles back out to the load as it normally would. The grid goes down, you're going to come over to your generator transfer switch, you're going to plug in your backup power right here through the generator inlet port, and then you're going to flip up whichever circuit or all circuits to the generator backup mode. Then what happens is the power from here goes through these circuit breakers, follows back on that black wire, and then out to your load, okay? When you're in backup mode, it doesn't use these circuit breakers over here. It uses these ones over here. When you're back in grid mode, you put your switches back down, then it transfers back over to these circuit breakers over here. Basically, you're just going back and forth. Pretty sweet, right? All right, and for video purposes only, I'm shoving all this wire back in here, but normally, obviously, it would be connected, okay? So just act like this stuff doesn't exist. Okay, so next thing you want to do, obviously, is just look over your wiring and make sure everything is good to go. If you deem everything is good to go, the next thing that we're going to do is reinstall the main cover panel. Now we're going to go ahead and turn the grid power back on. So go ahead and open up the little door and you can turn on your main circuit breaker. All right, once that is powered on, go ahead and turn on each individual circuit and we're back online. All right, the next thing we're going to do is, just so I can show you how all this works, is we're going to simulate the grid going down. So for me, I'm just going to flip off this main breaker. Alrighty, grid is gone. Let me show you how to hook everything up and power your critical loads panel. All right, I just turned the lights back on so you can see what's happening. All right, so I actually set this up with real power, okay? And then I hooked up L1 and L2 to these outlets right up here. And I have a 100-watt light bulb plugged into each port, okay? We're gonna say L1 is my furnace and then L2 is my refrigerator, okay? That's just for the example. All right, so how to use this is, let me set up the scene, is you're upstairs chilling on the couch watching your favorite movie. You know, this could be during a storm or not during a storm. A tree falls over on the power lines and just takes out the power, all right? Let me simulate that power going out. Boom, power has gone out. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna connect up the Anker SOLIX F3800 to the generator transfer switch. Alrighty, just rolled over the Anker SOLIX F3800. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna grab our 50 amp generator plug and plug it right into the 50 amp plug, okay? So we'll go ahead and do that. Boom, all right. Next thing we're gonna do is hit the power button. All right, and we're going to take the other end and plug it right into the generator transfer switch. And these only go one way. And just a little side note is these pins right here are not live. They're only live whenever you plug this in. All right, we're going to go ahead and plug this in, and then we're going to give it a little twist. That just keeps it from being pulled out. All right, on the generator transfer switch, we're still using circuits E and F for this example. You can see we're still on line mode for E and F. All we need to do is flip these up to generator mode. All right, and then you're going to see those two light bulbs show up over here on the Anker SOLIX F3800. Here we go. Boom, there we go. We're drawing 190 watts from the Anker SOLIX F3800. All right, so I just zoomed out a little bit so you can kind of see everything happening at the exact same time, including the two light bulbs up there, all right? So we're gonna grab our 50 amp generator plug and we're gonna plug that in, give it a little twist, all right? And then from here, all we need to do is flip the two switches up here, all right? Here we go. Done, all right? Super, super easy. All right, now I'll simulate the grid coming back on. So I'm just gonna flip my main breaker back on, okay? So back over here, all you need to do is flip it back down to line or grid mode. All right, that's it. All right, one other thing I wanna mention, which many people might wanna know, is if you have grid and generator on at the same time and you flip these, will your computers stay on? Yes, they will. I have done it many, many times because, again, I have a transfer switch installed and I have done it many, many times. It's just that quick. Boom, there you go. All right, so one more thing that I wanted to mention about having the critical loads panel is not only, obviously, can you back up your critical loads in an emergency, you can also start your off-grid journey using one of these, because even if you have the grid, you can come down here wherever you have the panel installed and just flip it over to battery backup power, all right? Then you can start powering your items, you know, really whenever you want to. Then if you add solar panels to the Anker SOLIX F3800, you know, the possibilities can start to get endless. All right, well, that's pretty much all I got. I'm gonna start wrapping up the video right now. I hope this video was helpful and easy to follow. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, definitely put those down in the comment section. If anybody's looking for the Anker SOLIX F3800, actually the whole bundle kit, it's actually on sale right now. I'm gonna have links to that down below. And of course, if you're tired of running extension cords all over your house in an emergency to power your items, I'm gonna have links to the generator transfer switch down below. Don't forget to like that smash button on the way out, and I will see you on the next one. We need to insert all the wires through the piece of metal right here. Own up to your own. Boom, done.